Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, for those of you who have been geeking out here for a while, you know that we are in the middle of a series of videos all about restoring your gun rights. Now, we've been through somebody's personal journey. We've been through all of the laws as it relates to A felonies, B felonies, C felonies, and now we finally get ourselves to misdemeanors. So, let's spend a few minutes today and talk about restoring your gun rights in Washington State Part 5, Domestic Violence Misdemeanors. Okay, before we get rolling, you guys know the drill. If you like this video, go ahead and click that like button. If you want to stay up to date on issues related to your Second Amendment rights, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Click the little bell logo if you want to be notified when we post new videos. Keep the comments and discussions coming. That's how we're going to make sure we're getting these videos out to more lawful and responsible gun owners. And if you or someone you know believe that you may be eligible to restore your Second Amendment rights and the problem existed or came from Washington State, make sure that you visit us at getmyrightsback.com. That's getmyrightsback.com. Okay, short recap. We are in video number 5. Video number 1, we took the personal journey of Brian, who was actually one of our longtime viewers, candid enough to talk to us about how he went from convicted felon drug addict to a lawful, responsible gun owner once again, turned his life around. It was a really great story. Episode number 2, video number 2, we did about all the disqualifiers and what happens when you get caught in unlawful possession of a firearm and all the terrible things that happen, and it was not good. Part 3, we started talking about Class B felonies. Now, this is the most serious offense by which we can actually restore our rights, but due to some nuances with the law, there's a lengthy period of time that one must wait before they're eligible to do this, okay? Now, video number 4, the one that we just did, was on Class C felonies, which actually, as that turns out, is the most straightforward of all things to restore from. Today, part 5, we're going to get down to the lowest level of crime that you can actually lose your firearm rights, and that's misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors. Now, misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors are handled in the district or municipal courts, courts of limited jurisdiction, and the superior courts, courts of general jurisdiction that encompass the entire county, they're the ones that handle felonies. So all of these matters originated either in a district or municipal court. Now, when we get down into misdemeanor land, we're talking about the DUIs, theft threes, we're talking about some malicious mischief, some disorderly conducts, minor in possession, driving on a suspended license. We see all sorts of things at the district and municipal court level. However, one of the most common things that we do see at that court level is domestic violence. Assault for domestic violence, violation of protection orders, violation of no contact orders, interfering with reporting of, harassment, domestic violence. The list goes on and on. And the two crimes at the district and municipal court level that the courts take incredibly serious are DUIs and anything of a domestic violence nature. And the seriousness by which they take these domestic violence things is what's going to create the rub that really actually makes restoration from domestic violence misdemeanors more complicated than restoration from C felonies. And in fact, you're going to see that in some ways, you're almost better off to have an assault 3 domestic violence than an assault 4 domestic violence. You're going to be able to restore in either situation. The timing, though, is going to surprise you. Okay, now to rehash again what we were talking about, we got 2 different things we need to do when we're restoring your rights. The first thing we need to do is we need to get the state of Washington to restore your rights. Now, that happens under RCW 9.41.040, a statute which looks like this. We've been spending all of our time, however, in Section 4 down here, which is the restoration portion of the statute. And we know as a general rule that if we've been convicted of a felony, we must wait at least 5 years before we begin the restoration process. And if we've been convicted of a misdemeanor, we only have to wait 3 years before we begin the restoration process. So the good news is if you've been convicted of a misdemeanor domestic violence offense, you only have to wait 3 years. Is that right? Wrong. And actually, once again, we're going to have a collision of laws that occur here that's actually going to complicate this for you. Because what we also have to remember is that even though we can get your rights restored on the state level, unless your Second Amendment rights are restored on the federal level, you really don't have your gun rights back. And that is where the trick comes in here. This is where the nuance occurs. Because if you only have your rights restored on the statewide level, you very well may get a concealed pistol license. But when you go to purchase a firearm, you're not going to pass a NICS background check. There is not a single 4473 that's going to be cleared on you. You're never going to be able to purchase a firearm. And candidly, if you think you have gun rights but you can't buy a gun, you don't have gun rights. So, even though we can begin the restoration process within 3 years, in order to get you restored on the federal level, as we remember with the felonies, there was 3 ways to do that. We could either get you a gubernatorial pardon, fat chance. We could get you a certificate of discharge, which shows that you fulfilled all the obligations of the sentence, or we could get an order of vacation. We can get the conviction vacated. Now, when we get down to misdemeanor land, though, the certificate of discharge no longer exists. It is not statutorily eligible as a method by which you can assist in vacating a misdemeanor. So we're left with 2 options. The first is still throwing rocks at the moon and getting a gubernatorial pardon. And the only realistic chance you have is through an order vacating the conviction. Now, here's the rub. In order to get a conviction vacated, you must demonstrate several things. Now, some of them would be very obvious, that you haven't had any criminal behavior in the time period leading up to the request for vacation, that you're not currently under indictment or charged with or out on a warrant for any type of criminal offense, that there's not some type of protection order, anti-harassment order, no contact order, or anything like that in place against you at the time that you are asking for the order on vacation. And then here's the 2 rubs when it comes to misdemeanor domestic violence. If it is a domestic violence offense, it is only a singular incident. Now, if we picked up multiple charges out of one incident, that's fine. Well, it's not fine, but that wouldn't count. But if we have offense dates on separate dates, that is multiple incidents, we're not eligible to vacate. And that is a huge problem. Here's the other problem, is in order to vacate, we have to show that we've gone at least 5 years since the time that jurisdiction expired on the case before we're eligible to apply for vacation. Now, here's the rub here. Under RCW 10.05, which sets some of the conditions of probation for various offenses, there are 2 types of misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor offenses that actually don't have 2 years of probation. They can have up to 5 years of probation. And those, once again, are DUIs, and anything of a domestic violence nature. So if you have been convicted of a misdemeanor domestic violence offense, there's a high likelihood that you were put on probation for 5 years. You're not eligible to apply to or to a petition to vacate that conviction until you've gone 5 years beyond the expiration of the jurisdiction on the case to begin with, which now puts us out at 10 years. And we're stuck in the same little legal purgatory like those on the Class B felony. So even though 941.040 subsection 4 right here tells us, hey, you can restore on a misdemeanor after 3 years, you have to at least gone 5 years since the end of jurisdiction in order to get an order vacating the conviction. And without an order vacating the conviction, you're not going to restore on the federal level. And without restoring on the federal level, you basically have only solved half of your problem. Come full circle. When we go back and we look at the video that we did on Class C felonies, assault in the 3rd degree domestic violence is a Class C felony, okay? You could actually petition for restoration of your firearm rights and get an order vacating as soon as 5 years following the offense date. But on an assault for domestic violence, which is not a felony, a non-felony, a lesser charge, you're in all likelihood, if you were given 5 years of probation, you're waiting 10 years before you can completely restore all of your firearm rights. If you were lucky enough to only get 2 years of probation, which the court would have the authority to do, you're still looking at 7 years before you're eligible to do the vacation necessary to get your rights restored on the federal level. Remember, when it comes to the federal level, we actually have to change what the records say happened at the lower court in order for the feds to grant you your rights back. That's why we need a certificate of discharge, we need an order vacating the conviction, or we need a gubernatorial pardon. 2 of those are possible in felonies, 1 of them is possible in misdemeanors, and 1 of them, candidly, is never possible. Listen, you may have more questions about restoring your gun rights from any of these offenses, and if you do, don't ever hesitate to contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com. And please remember that if you or someone you know believes that you are eligible to restore your Second Amendment rights and you're wanting and willing and ready to become the lawful and responsible gun owner once again, and that problem started here in Washington State, please visit us at getmyrightsback.com. Of course, if you have any other questions, comments, or concerns, you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.